Welcome back to Legacy Her Way. This is the podcast where women define, build, and live legacy on their own terms. I'm your host, Tanya Hendricks. Each week, we dive into real stories, fresh strategies, and inspiring conversations that help you create a future that reflects who you are and what you value most. This is all about legacy your way. So let's get started. This episode is sponsored by Huntsville Estate Planning Lawyer, where we empower your vision and secure your future through estate planning and trademarks. So let's talk legacy, her way, your way, and today we're talking about Tonya Ross's way of building legacy. Our guest today is Tonya Ross. She is the founder of Southern Kitchen and Home. It's a store born from her love of Southern food, home goods, and the makers behind them. As an Army wife, mother of two, and lifelong traveler, she has lived and worked around the world, balancing military life with a career. She worked for an Anheuser-Busch property, becoming the supervisor of food cost control, and was there until military life brought her to Huntsville in 2008, where she began working in the Department of Defense industry, working closely with small businesses. She has been director of contracts and worked in operations, business development, proposals, and processes. For those of you in the Huntsville area, you're familiar with all of those different, career paths. Now, as the owner of Southern Kitchen and Home at Stove House in Huntsville, she is fulfilling a lifelong dream, which we're going to hear about. Welcome to the show, Tonya.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm excited for people to hear about you and Southern Kitchen and Home because I think it's one of it's a little jewel, a little gem in Huntsville that more people need to hear about. So I'm excited to share that today. But before we talk about Southern Kitchen and Home, tell us a little bit about you.
I moved here in 2008. Like you said, I was a military wife for 20 years. Army aviation, moved everywhere. I'm from Georgia originally, south of Atlanta, born and raised. I've now lived here longer than I've lived anywhere else, which is crazy to think about. I left, like most military families and spouses, I left Georgia and went to Fort Bragg and then Germany, traveled around Europe, lived there for 5 years, left, went to Virginia, Hawaii, Virginia, and then here. I have two boys. One lives out in Kansas City, and one lives here in the area and is now works for a contractor and is in the Army National Guard flying Black Hawks. So Army aviation didn't really leave very far from our family when my now ex-husband retired, and so now I'm a empty nester and doing new things I never thought I would be doing or never really thought I would be doing.
Mm-hmm. So you are doing new things. So you're in a new season of life. And, as you've kind of had different career paths, mainly because you did have to travel so much as an Army spouse. And, first of all, thank you for your service in that because, we often will thank military members, service members themselves for their service, which is huge, but the spouses are also serving in a different capacity. But you are also sacrificing in service and serving. So I appreciate what you went through and your sacrifices as a military spouse. But now that you're in this new season of life, what does success look like to you right now?
Success is wildly different than what I thought it was, maybe even 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Success is not monetarily any longer. Success is having the happiness and the joy, being able to wake up every morning and be grateful, and knowing that now my two boys are out living a life and having those memories that we had of them with them growing up. And I'll give you an example really quickly of success. My oldest came home for Christmas a couple of years ago, and we were sitting around the table playing games and all of that on Christmas Eve, like you typically do, and eating. And I had all their favorite little foods and bites, and they knew Christmas morning was going to be our traditional. And so what was successful was that night they were talking about all the little trips and day trips and things like that that we did. And I cherished those moments. I really didn't know if they would remember them. And what's funny is they remembered more than what I remembered.
Oh, wow.
And it was all great. It was the dinner, dinner on the beach in Yorktown. It was the hanging out with friends, and going to the Outer Banks. It was packing a picnic lunch and going to Chip Poke's plantation and playing in the James River, or even just staying at home. And every Friday night we had game night.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to keep their lives as simple and normal as possible, with all the eruption that was going on. I will say my ex-husband and I made a great team, and we're still
Mm-hmm.
friends today, but we made a great team, and we really tried that for the boys because we were both raised by single parents,
Mm-hmm.
single mothers. Dad's not really in our lives all the time, and I wanted I wanted some kind of a norm for them.
Uh-huh.
So success for me now is wildly different than what I thought it would be 5, 10, 20 years ago.
What do you think caused the shift? What brought about the shift in the way you view success?
Beyond maturity, I think you just start to realize you have a time, and it's for lack of better words, it's ticking, and you don't know when that's going to end.
Mm-hmm.
And things just, when you start realizing that, it becomes different. I was having a conversation with Morgan, who's the manager at the store, and her best friend. And I told them, they're in their 20s. I told them, if I would have started this back at your age, my life would be completely different. And I told them, I said, if you've got a dream, go for it. Just do it. Don't be scared. Really think about what life means to you. Because now at this age, I'll say the word fear, and I don't mean scared fear. The only fear that I have is there's not enough time for all the plans in my head now that I've pulled the trigger on this that I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's it was hard to take that leap, and a lot of entrepreneurs I think will tell you it's hard to take that leap.
Yeah.
But once you do, and I've heard this time and time again too, once you do, you think, why didn't I do this a long time ago?
Mm-hmm.
So I think knowing that your time is limited
Mm-hmm.
is really, and people can tell you that all day long, but until you actually experience it and realize it
Mm-hmm.
is when you start making the changes and the shifts.
Mm-hmm. So for you, and I know because you and I have talked previously, so I do know a little bit. I don't want to spoil it for the listeners, so I know a little bit about the story here. But when did you first have? Because I want to circle back to this comment you made about telling Morgan and her friend, if you have a dream, pursue it, and you do fear at this point. So there's a little bit of regret in there. You fear that you won't have enough time to do everything that you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people listening who have a dream, they have a passion, and they're at a point in their life where maybe they can't pursue it. You were a military spouse, so you were limited by your circumstances and what you could pursue. When did you first have this dream of Southern Kitchen and Home, or something to the, something similar?
Mm-hmm. So it was very similar. It's not the exact of what I have right now, but it was when I lived in Williamsburg. Well, we lived outside of Williamsburg. I worked in Williamsburg. And I went there was a store. It still may be there. It's wonderful if it is. Williamsburg Cheese Shop. And it's great. And there were foods from all over, not just there. There was some of my German foods, some of my English foods that I've had when living abroad, and they had great sandwiches. And I've always loved cooking. I've always loved everything cooking, baking, love to entertain, love to have my house like a certain way. So I I've always thought I would love to have something like this. And then we lived across the river in a small town, and they had a smaller scale shop, and I loved it. Well, when I stopped working at Anheuser-Busch, it was because I had my second child, and he had a little bit of health problems right there at the beginning, and I thought this isn't worth it. I'm staying home with him. So the day I quit Anheuser-Busch, I signed up and started taking classes immediately and started going for my degree. So I had a double major in business psychology. So of course my whole degrees was nothing but writing papers. So that's why I like to write, know how to write is because of that. And I had to write a business plan. And it was about something you loved, something you wanted to do. If you could start your own business, we wrote business plans for, Southwest and, all the stuff that schools make you do. But we were able to do something that we loved. And so I wrote a business plan on something like Southern Kitchen and Home.
Mm-hmm.
It was a food shop. And it has transpired in my head after that many different ways, whether it was offering food, which handmade sandwiches, things like that. And I just never really had my heart in that.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I came home, I would always shop Southern. Everywhere I've been, I've always shopped local. I've always shopped small. I eat small. The rule when we travel is you don't eat at chains.
Mm-hmm.
You eat local.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly I'll have conversations with people that are local and say, if you only had one day here to eat, where would you eat? Or what is the best place to eat in your town? And so that kind of, it was just kind of feeding the beast, if you would,
Uh-huh.
of what Southern Kitchen and Home would be. And then started working in DoD world here, and I worked for small businesses, and I saw how just putting yourself out there could make you grow and how a business would grow. My first small business that I was with, we were owned by several different people, and now they're a very large contractor here that a lot of people know very well. And I just saw how that launched them by being a small business. And so that was fed into my mind. So everywhere I traveled, I'm thinking, I could live here and I could open a store here and I could do this here. And so it was always back there, of bringing these small businesses here. And I started a notebook when I started traveling, and I would go to these food stores and I would look at the small businesses that I've never seen before and start making notes. And so I have a book, and it's 2 straight pages of products. And I started with those when I opened the store. But that was how I got to Southern Kitchen and Home. Is we still have food things in the future. We have a lot of plans ahead, but it was bringing those small businesses to Huntsville that are Southern makers. So we are still, not only do you shop small and women owned, but you'll shop small, women owned, family owned, veteran owned, all in one place. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what brings me joy and happiness in my heart, is supporting those types of vendors. All my vendors have stories.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's fantastic when I can share those stories with people that come in the store.
Yeah. So for anyone listening who has that dream and has a vision, I think you have just laid out kind of a game plan for people. If they're in that situation, like you were not able to open your business when you first had that dream, when you first did that plan, that business plan in college, but you have laid out a kind of a foundation of don't give up on the dream. You can do your research, your market research, keep notes, do what you want to do. And then when the opportunity arises, when you are able to pivot or do, follow that dream, you've got your plan in place and you can act on it. So I hope those of you listening got that and will, kind of have some encouragement now that don't give up on the dream, but you can plan for it. You can go ahead and start planning, start getting everything together, get all your ducks in a row, and when the opportunity is there, you can seize it. So let's talk about Southern Kitchen and Home. What is it, and what is, you've already talked about your love for all things Southern, and the, helping small businesses, helping women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, family-owned businesses. But tell us what Southern Kitchen and Home is and what y'all do.
Okay, so we're in Stovehouse on Gaslight Alley. That's back behind the walk-up restaurants, and so we're on the corner. We started not quite a year ago, November the 28th. It will be 1 year. I started. If I was going to start, I was going to start right. I could start it on a Black Friday. And so we're back there, and we have everything's from the South, and it's primarily small businesses through the South. The reason why I say primarily is because I have a couple of businesses that I started with that I knew were small, and they were moving up into that large business. So once their products are gone, I'm not going to have them again. They're great products. I love them. I've already told some of my customers that came back for some of those products, I sent them to where I know a local shop sells them.
Mhm.
So, and I explained why I'm not going to sell them anymore. I really want to stay true to that. I have found Southern vendors who would send me things from China or send me things from that was made in California. I I'm not. It's not that it's not a great product. It's just not, it's not where I stand and what I want in the store. So I so we have that within the last for the first 6 months. Everything was fine. We had the store. And then I was offered a space to grow next door to me, which I was hoping for in 2 to 3 years.
Mhm.
And now we have that space within 6 months. So now we're offering classes as well. So I'm bringing in local small business owners who support the hub or support the community in one way or the other. And the hub, I mean the Huntsville Food and Farm Hub is what I mean with that. There's two vendors that come in and teach classes. And so now I'm offering classes of cake decorating and cookie decorating, cake painting, hand lettering, sourdough. So there's a whole range, charcuterie boards. There's a whole range of classes that you can take now to not only learn that, but spend time with family and friends and or just come out by yourself and meet people. So we moved into that space and we have a lot planned for that space as well.
Okay. What kind of well what sparked this desire and passion for really focusing in on the Southern vendors, the Southern makers? I mean, obviously, I know you're from Georgia, you now live in Alabama, but is it more than just living in the South that sparked this passion?
No, it's not. Well, yes, as it is more than just living in the South, because and I have spoke to several other people, customers that have come in that I don't know their names, and we've talked about this. So no matter where I have been, I always wanted to come back to the South. When I came back to the South, I was always very proud to be in the South.
Mm.
Some people don't understand this, but when I cross that line from Alabama to Georgia, I know it. I can feel it in my bones that I'm in Georgia.
Mhm.
And there's just always this proud, it's just always, I'm always proud to be from the United States, but I'm always proud to say that I'm from the South.
Mhm.
And there comes controversy with that sometimes, but I'm proud of my heritage and being from here. I have Cherokee heritage from Georgia, and I don't have and I don't claim to be Cherokee, but I have that and strong in my family. Um, and I I just have always loved the South, and I can just feel it when I'm here.
Hmm. You say on your website that before you started Southern Kitchen Home, you've talked to your sons, and your sons were completely on board, and they were adults at this time. Like when you started the plans, or I say started the plans, you started planning years ago, but when you were serious about opening this store, that your sons were on board, and together y'all made it a reality. How did you involve your sons, and why was that important?
So my sons and I, we've always been able to talk. We've always had an open dialogue in the house. We've always had dinner at the kitchen table. I cooked all the time, and we ate at home all the time. We might have been on the run, but boy, we had a crock pot meal that we were coming home to,
Mhm.
and sitting at the table. So we've always been very close. And so I thought it was just natural that when I was going to make a change, or I was going to add something to my life, that I include them. And so, plus having being single now, they're sometimes, now being adults, they can be a sounding board for me. And I'm a sounding board for them. It's a different relationship when they're adults than when they're children.
Mhm.
So when I had this idea, I I had a conversation with them of, this is what I'm thinking about. What do you think? This is going to totally change my life if I do this, and I'm going to be very busy, and I and and I'm older, and I remember that conversation. I'll never forget it. My oldest, who's always very encouraging, says, "Let's go, let's go, let's do it,"
Nice.
and I said, "But I'm 50, I'm over 50. This is, it's, I don't know if this is the right decision for me." And my youngest, started saying who started businesses at 50 or older, Colonel Sanders and Vera Wang and Mary Kay. And so that was encouraging.
Nice.
And anytime I have just a day where I'm discouraged, if I call either one of my boys and say, it's been rough, they're always there with some very good advice and encouragement. So it was only natural for me to talk to them
Mhm.
about making a change, and I pray that always continues
Mhm.
in both of all three of our lives.
Mhm. So now I want to back up just a little bit and bring in something you said before I asked you that question, because I asked you that question because I knew I was going to ask the next question.
Okay.
Because you have such a strong connection to the South, you have such a strong connection to where you were raised. Your boys were obviously raised different because they were traveling all over the world or all over the United States. What is something that your sons are inheriting from you that's not physical? And I think you've already talked about it just then, because your boys are so well grounded and encouraging that they've got it. They learned it from somebody. Maybe it's both of their parents, but they've learned that. But what are some things that you are passing down to them that's not physical?
I believe I'm passing down the number one trait that gets lost, especially now with technology world, is communication. They know how to communicate. They know how to sit down and have the conversations. And along with communication, I feel that they are grounded with family. My youngest, when he was staying here between flight school and moving into his own space, I have two bars in my kitchen that you can sit at, and he would come and sit at the table. And so I think that's important. I think there's a lot of, and I'm not saying right, wrong, or different. Parenting is the hardest thing, and everybody parents a different way, and everybody's life looks a different way. To me, sitting at the table together is important. You have the conversations, you have no technology, you have no phones. And so I think that they're carrying on the morals and values that their dad and I have really instilled in them of not having the disruptions, and really connecting with those that are around you.
With that being said, you were talking about it made me think about the store, and you talked about the importance of being around the table and that communication, but just coming together as a family and being able to talk and share things. That's kind of reflected in your store, isn't it?
It is. And, I never made that correlation until just now when you said it. But yeah, a big thing is I knew I wanted, because of the space, I knew I wanted a big, long table in the middle of the store. And everything is, it's funny how everything just kind of fell in line at the store. And I feel that everything is just kind of falling in line with everyone that I meet and everything that's coming in and out. So I knew I wanted a big, long table, and I couldn't find it. And of course, starting a business, you know, and on your own, starting a business and not having, family help or anything like that, you're very limited on budget. And so, of course, looking on Facebook Marketplace and all the things, and rating my own house of shelving and things to put in on the walls or in the store as decoration. Um, I couldn't find that table, and I finally found it in Huntsville at Preservation Company, and it was a little bit of a price tag. But when I turned that corner and saw that table, I knew that was the table. I knew in my gut that was the table I needed. So a lot of my budget went to that table, but when we were first having classes before I moved in that space, we closed the store for 2 hours and cleared off that table, and we would have classes at the table. And so, before that, when I built the website, in fact, my oldest son helped me build the website. Well, I say help me. He built the website. um, and so it's, I always want to say, come have a seat at the table, because even when, you have friends over, you may be on the back porch drinking a glass of wine or, some tea or something, but, you always end up in the kitchen. You always end up at the table, whether you're playing a game or not. And it's just, I think people coming over and sitting at your table with you is important.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, with our dinners, no distractions, no phones, and just having a good time. And so when I was raising the boys, I mentioned it before, Friday nights was game night. We would have fun foods and we would play games. Sometimes they were computer games. Sometimes, we would have a Mario Kart. And that's still, we still talk about playing Mario Kart together. But, a lot of times it was board games. Sometimes it was outside, when they were really young, playing hide and seek. It was, or having dizzy bat races or something like that. So we always had Halloween parties, and there's a something that's coming up in the life that will kind of share a little bit more with me and the boys and what I did with them, and how I try to spend time with them. And I cherish that time and very thankful for the time that I did quit Anheuser-Busch, started staying at home, because I was able to raise my kids when they were younger, and I was able to spend time with them. It was a lot of time management, that on my part, but coming together at that table on Friday nights to have game night was important. And now as I start my store, I want people to come and sit at the table with us.
Mm-hmm. And you also, we've talked about the store, and you want people to come sit at the table with you. But one of the things you do at the store is you do gift boxes. You have business owners
Yes.
that reach out to you who want to send a thank you gift or just some type of gift to somebody. Is that also reflected in the gift box, your desire for people to kind of come around the table, so to speak, in the way you help bring together these gift boxes for business owners?
Well, I think that's more shining on the vendors, on the small business vendors, than sitting at the table per se. So we do gift boxes. We do gift baskets. I go out and source baskets. I do not source them from China. I do not source them from anywhere else. I go, not saying that some of these baskets are not Chinese, but I don't want the gift basket to be the main cost. So I go out and source them from thrift or from people or however, because the basket's great, but I want the focus to be on the small business that they're getting,
Mhm.
and the cost to be all on the products. So by sourcing these baskets or whatever, then the money is spent on the product and not the basket that they may not want or need.
Mhm.
And so we do corporate gifts, we do individual gifts, boxes or baskets, and then we're about to drop a gift concierge service. I have built out the forms, downloaded the application for the POS. Now I've just got to get all that to talk together.
Mhm.
But you can go online and fill out forms for gifts for every gift you need for the entire year, whether it's teachers' gifts, birthdays, anniversaries, hostess gifts if you always continually go to a certain person's house at Thanksgiving or for a certain football game. And you can fill that out with your price point, put in the special notes in there, whether it's for a tailgate and what's the team, or they're gluten free, or they like spicy, or they can't handle spice.
Mhm.
So all those questions are in there, and then it can be a price point from very low to high, and then you spread that out throughout the year, and we take care of all your gifting for you. And so we can either ship it for you, you can come pick it up, or I'm going to be looking for someone to help deliver if delivery is an option for folks.
Mhm. And where can they find out that information? Like they wanted to
Well,
subscribe to that service or find you, where do they find you?
so they can find me on socials, Southern Kitchen and Home, on Facebook or Instagram. We will definitely launch it on there. It will be on the website. That's where you'll be able to go online. We'll point people to that. As long as this app works the way that it should work. Um, and so they can, if they follow us on social media, or they can send me their email address or sign up to receive emails, and it will be in an email form as well that we're dropping it.
Well, and to be clear, or to let everybody know, when this episode is aired, in the show notes, you'll have a link to Southern Kitchen
Yes.
and Home website, Southern Kitchen and Home Facebook, Instagram, all those. So you can just look in the show notes for that information with a quick link to reach Tonya to make sure you can get those gifts, or just make sure and go by the store. I mean, if you're local to Huntsville or you're traveling through, be sure to go to Stove House, to Gaslight Alley, go through Southern Kitchen and Home. I have been there. They have such unique gifts. I keep thinking about there's a skillet that she just started carrying, which I do want to go back and get because it's really unique. But I love the concept of helping the small businesses, helping the local or southern regional vendors, because one of the things about Legacy Her Way is it's to help small businesses. I want to highlight, particularly women, small business owners, to help people find you, know that you exist, and support you in your businesses. And I like the fact that you are supporting Southern vendors, whether it's women owned, veteran owned, family owned, and to be able to incorporate those particular types of vendors in the the corporate gifts, any other type of gifts, whether it's the gift baskets, gift boxes, or somebody just come by the store. I love that concept. Love it. One final
Thank
question.
you.
I'm going to wrap it up. If What is one thing that you are doing now that you wish more women knew they could do?
Anything, really. If you can dream it, you can do it. It may be scared. You can do it scared. You can do it challenged. It's not for the starting a business is it's not for the weak
No, it's
or
not.
soft-skinned. Um, I work every day,
Yes.
hours on day. I don't, but it doesn't mean that because I work so much or I started a business that's taken over my life, that it can impede your balance of having a personal life. You can set it up however you want to.
Mhm.
But if you dream of something, whether it's a business or starting a garden or anything in between, you can do it. And it might be hard because change is hard.
Mhm.
But if you just realize that you can do it, you can. And if you go out there, and that's one thing that's really good about technology these days. If it's something that you're interested in and you're researching it, whatever, find your people in your area and ask them to coffee
Yeah.
and talk to them. That's one thing that I think really opened my eyes. I now reach out to all kinds of people and say, "Hey, want to meet for coffee?" I don't know them,
Mhm.
um, but it's started some great relationships and some great business relationships. So whether you want to, you know, start playing mahjong or start a garden club or start a business, all you have to do is take that step to do it.
Yeah.
And really you can manage your time to do it. Just do it.
Mhm.
You have one life. You have, so much time to do this. And I say so much time as a limited time.
Yeah.
So just do what makes you happy.
All right. Very good. I'm going to end it on that note because I can't do anything better than that. So thank you so much, Tanya,
Thank you.
for joining me on Legacy Her Way. If today's conversation spoke to you, share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so that you can download and get every episode and not miss bit of a single bit of wisdom like you just got from Tanya. So I appreciate what Tanya just said and sharing her time and wisdom with all of us. So be sure to subscribe to Legacy Her Way. Leave us a comment that helps people find us. And if um, thank you again for
Thank
joining
you.
us today. You'll see the link in the show notes to everything to Southern Kitchen and Home and to reach out to Tanya. But be sure you visit Southern Kitchen and Home either in person or online. Thank you all so very much. Subscribe and tune in next time to Legacy Her Way. Bye.